Welcome back to another video, guys. Today we're going to go through a list of 7 things that shocked us when we visited big city America for the first time.
We flew all the way from New Zealand to visit the USA for the very first time.
Yes, and if you want to see some of the videos that we've released so far, make sure you go and check out our channel. There's lots of stuff there, from trying food for the first time, vlogs, and all sorts of different things. So make sure you go and check it out. And yeah, let's get into the list. So today's list is in no particular order for how shocking it was, but we're just going to run through the 7 items. And first up is driving.
Driving.
So obviously that's one of the first things we had to encounter when we arrived there. So we arrived at the airport, picked up our Dodge Durango GT.
Which we'd never heard of before.
Yeah, so it took us a while to find it in the parking lot. So a few different models of cars that we weren't used to.
Yeah.
But remember that we are coming from like a small island nation in the bottom of the Pacific Ocean, so we're not, used to all the different, hundreds and thousands of different
massive vehicles.
Variations of cars, yes, and the size of the cars was massive too.
Yeah.
So obviously, me being the driver, it was very interesting hopping in on the other side of the car.
Yeah. You guys drive on the different side of the road to us.
Yes, so that was actually my first time ever driving on that side of the road, because I'd been to Europe like all my childhood, so I kind of knew being a passenger, but then going from passenger to driver was just like it was a bit of a mind bend.
It was
but
scary.
I had to sort of just calm down and get used to it, and yeah, it actually didn't take me that long.
No, it didn't.
It took me a while to find the indicator, but that's all right. I had to turn a few corners without using the indicator.
The other thing is the amount of lanes.
Yes, so coming from New Zealand, which is like, max, like, or usually single lane roads almost everywhere you go, and then the motorway, which is, what we call the freeway.
Motorway, yeah.
Is usually maybe, 4 or 6 absolutely max.
Yeah.
Like 4 to 6 lanes. Mm-hmm. And we, over there, I remember counting the lanes, it was 12 lanes, so 6 lanes each side.
Yeah, that was crazy.
That I just felt like I was in like I felt like I was in like NASCAR or something. It was
Like
just
a
so
rally
many
drone.
lanes and cars just going straight past me, and it was just insane.
Yeah.
I think Americans are probably more confident drivers than us here.
Yes.
And they were just like zipping between lanes, and just like everything just looked like it was just such a well-oiled machine.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I'm just going to stay where I am and just see how I fit in, because
I know. Also, add in that you don't really know where you're going.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's very unsure. But
Yeah.
I think you mastered it.
Yeah, exactly. And then, we got to like a place like New York City where we didn't get a rental car and do driving, but we noticed like walking through the streets or even in the taxi, remember?
Yeah.
That the beeping is like a language in its own.
Tooting the horn is just a whole new language that we don't use here. Tooting in New Zealand, if you beep the horn, only means one thing.
Yeah.
You're enraged
And it's
with
usually
someone.
followed by a big middle finger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But over there, it's like you're waiting in line at the lights and it's like, beep. It's like, oh, this is taking a while. Like, beep. Yes, it is. And then, like, everyone's happy and beeping and,
It's like they're having a good old chat.
Good old chat with the horn.
Guns.
Guns.
That was a big one for us.
Huge, because we turned up to the USA thinking that we would see guns everywhere
Yes.
because of what we'd heard in the media or just how it's portrayed in the rest of the world.
Yeah.
We didn't see any.
I know, it's crazy, but the other thing is that we knew that, like, gun use and gun ownership varies, and gun laws differ, like, they're very different between different states.
That's true.
But I mean, even when we got to Texas, we saw none.
No guns, only on law enforcement.
Yeah, I mean, Texas and places like Florida, probably places that you would expect to see more of them.
Yeah.
But we didn't see them
Didn't see
anymore
any.
compared to California or New York
I
or
was
anything.
legitimately thinking I would turn up in the country
With people just like walking
and
around
just
with...
see guns and holsters everywhere.
Yeah.
But shocked that I didn't see more guns, only on law enforcement, which our law enforcement don't carry guns.
No, but only in their actual patrol cars.
That's right. So they don't actually carry them on them. So we're even not used to seeing that.
Yes. In fact, the police here don't even wear bulletproof vests. They wear stab-proof vests.
True.
Yeah. And especially since we've just reacted to that video where we
Yes.
saw about how crazy some of the guns can get over there. I mean, we weren't expecting to walk over there and people holding like big rifles. But I do remember one instance on 5th Ave when we were walking down the street, and we saw it was almost like a SWAT car, like a truck. I remember, and all those guys were standing outside.
It was outside the Trump Tower.
That's right.
It was outside Trump Tower.
With all the big rifles.
Yeah.
So we were like, whoa, that's crazy.
We had to take a photo.
Yeah, we took photos and everything. And we were like, it's just a photo. Like,
But they actually smiled for the photo.
they were really cool.
They were really cool,
They
yeah.
were super cool about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's just one thing we noticed, that we was totally...
Shocking.
Completely the opposite of our expectations.
Yes.
The wealth gap.
Yeah.
So that was one that it's such a strange phenomenon because it's almost like, you know, if you're in the presence of like, you know, a Ferrari or something or a Lamborghini driving past you, which, okay, let's make something clear. We're from New Zealand, and there aren't many Ferraris or anything like that here. Lamborghinis, like at all.
At all.
So seeing one is a very rare sight, and it's kind of exciting. So when we went to America and we saw heaps of Ferraris and, you know, Lamborghinis and stuff, we were like, oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
But then on the flip side to that,
on the very same street,
is the struggle that we saw as well.
Yeah.
The amount of homeless people and people just like struggling. I mean, especially in New York, you know, with the addicts down in the subway.
Yep, and definitely in LA, you're strolling past
Yes.
massive Hollywood mansions, and in the same street, you've got, you know, tents
Yeah.
put up at the side.
And it felt like the tents just went for miles.
Yeah,
down
and
the
then
road.
you've got the homeless, and
Yeah.
then you've got, you know, Ferraris and expensive cars
Driving them.
straight past. And
Yeah.
that was sort of shocking, actually.
It was really polarizing.
Very polarizing.
And it really stood out to us.
I think here in New Zealand, we have, you know, wealthy areas. We also have not so wealthy areas, but
Yeah.
they're not usually next to each other, you know?
And also, what's crazy, another thing that we found out was that apparently, if you're homeless and you squat in an empty home,
Oh, yeah, that was
for 7 years, and you have mail, you can prove that you had a mail sent to you. Sorry, you only have to live there for 1 year.
Yeah, I thought it was one.
Yeah, 1 year, and then you can legally stay there for 7 years.
Right. So that was wild.
So that was crazy. So I don't know if maybe like the homeless people are, you know, trying to do that.
Maybe.
Or if there's a difference between homeless people and squatters.
Yeah.
But here in New Zealand, I feel that like if you were homeless and you were in a wealthy area, you'd be moved on.
You would likely be moved on by the police.
Yeah.
If you were outside homes or that sort of thing. But yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I know. Crazy.
So the cost of food was another thing that shocked us.
It did.
Because I think our expectations going into the cost of, I guess, everything in America versus New Zealand
Yep.
is that everything is cheaper in the USA.
Yeah.
That's a premise we've almost all been told, that you can shop up large, you can, you know, the cost of things is far cheaper in the USA. And I think we went into it sort of with that in the back of our mind, although we had sort of been warned by people that had been there recently that it wasn't the case anymore.
With inflation and everything.
With inflation.
Quite bad.
Shopping, I think we could say, was cheaper, but when you account the exchange rate and how much a New Zealand dollar is worth against a US dollar,
Yeah.
it's not cheaper.
Yeah.
But definitely we noticed it in the food industry,
Yes.
particularly the service industry. Not so much the supermarkets. I think that the supermarket food was well priced.
Yeah, the grocery store, yeah.
Even with the exchange rate, I think the grocery store was well priced. It was more
Yeah, it was.
restaurants, service, eating out, tourism, I guess, areas.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, fast food and stuff like that.
Fast food,
Yeah.
all of that wasn't as cheap as we thought it would be.
No. And then you have the tips on top of
And
that.
then you have tipping on top of that. So
which
I
we are
guess,
totally not used to or accustomed here.
I think when you're a tourist and you're not from a country that tips, which is pretty much every country except for the USA, is that correct?
That's actually a really good question. I don't know. I think I've only ever heard of Americans tipping.
Same.
Yeah.
I think that's something that tourists forget to budget in.
Yes.
And
or find it difficult to budget in because you don't
Yeah.
really know like how much you should give. Like
That's right.
if there's a general rule in a different state or a different restaurant.
And you also don't know before you go there, if you're going for the first time, you don't know which industry you tip and which you don't and what's
Yes,
expected.
exactly.
It's really hard to get your head around that, both financially and I guess the etiquette of tipping.
Yeah.
You're going in blind. You don't really know what's expected.
Yeah, exactly.
And that was a challenging point. But main shocking thing was the price of food.
Yes.
Fast food.
So good.
Like, do we need to say any more?
It was like shocking how good it was.
Shockingly good fast food.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is that we do have fast food in New Zealand, obviously, but we have such a limited amount comparatively to America.
Yeah.
And you know how fast food always tastes the same? You always get
Yeah.
the same thing.
Yeah.
It's like we had this very tiny palette of fast food, and then you go somewhere for the first time in your 37 years of life, and you're trying all new fast foods.
I know your
It's mind-blowing.
mind is just open up to a whole new world. It's
Yeah.
just crazy. Like I mean, you know, I would say that as someone who's eaten New Zealand fast food for his whole life, it's relatively bland compared to what we experienced in America.
And do you know why?
Why?
sauces.
Yes.
And sides.
Oh, all the special sauces. And they're like unique to each restaurant.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Like so many. And also all the sides. Sides, I feel like in New Zealand are not a thing.
Yeah.
Like sides are a whole menu in itself in America.
It's crazy.
The only sides you get here is fries.
Yep, just fries basically. And then like over there, I mean, you've got like, mac and cheese. You've got like the bean dip and rice.
There's always an array of sides that you can get at a fast food restaurant in America.
Yep.
Doesn't exist here.
Huge size menu.
Yeah.
So we were absolutely shocked with how good it tastes.
I was legitimately shocked how good the fast food really was. I was expecting more of the same.
Yeah.
But it wasn't.
No.
It's so good.
I know. Yeah.
And we have a Popeyes opening up just up
Yes,
the road.
let's go Popeyes. Yes. Honey on the chicken.
We're so excited.
And we move on to number 6, which is just the sheer size of the cities that we encountered.
Yeah.
That we went to.
And as well, just the volume of people moving through these ginormous cities.
Mind-blowing.
Really mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Our biggest city is...
Auckland.
Yeah.
1 million people. We were both born and raised there.
Yes.
So we know the big city life.
Yeah.
But that is like mega city life.
I just think as well the size of the buildings.
Yeah, the skyscrapers.
Everything. Yeah.
It's just everything on a way bigger scale.
Yeah.
And yeah, like you said, just the sheer amount of people that you encountered, like face to face too.
Yeah.
I mean, you could walk down like Main Street, Auckland, and it wouldn't be crazy busy.
No.
But there, you're like, zigzagging between
and just people
crowds.
crossing, and even like the waste management there with all of the rubbish bags on the roads.
Oh, I know.
And being collected. Yeah.
I can't imagine the task that it would be to take care of those cities on a day-to-day basis.
It was like a well-oiled machine.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was fascinating to watch.
It was very well run. But at the same time, most of the cities that we visited in America, that one city alone was, around, if not more than the entire population of our country, New Zealand.
Yeah.
If not a lot more.
Yeah.
So that was a really mind-blowing thing to encounter as well.
Yeah.
Finally, we've arrived to the last item.
Yes.
And it's
a goodie.
The difference in accents.
Yes.
Wow.
Okay,
so, coming from New Zealand, there is, we're a much smaller country, like, geographically too, but, I mean, if you go from the very top of the country to the very bottom, you're going to find, like, a very, very minor difference.
We can hear it.
And because we're used to it.
Because we're used to it from the people down south.
But if foreigners came here, you
would never pick it up.
No, you wouldn't really be able to tell.
But I think as someone who's only ever been exposed to movies from the US.
Yes.
All the Hollywood movies, I never noticed much change in accent in those movies.
Because I think, like, most of the movies, I think they kind of like to keep the general American accent, like, just the same. And most of them are also made in California.
True.
So we had, like, our California, our Hollywood tour guide.
Yeah, he was
James.
awesome. James was awesome.
Yeah, so, his language is like, go next door to the 7-Eleven and grab yourself a big gulp and some 10 wangs.
Yeah.
And you're straight, like, all that sort of stuff.
He was awesome. And even just, like, the language that they use is slightly different depending on the accent.
Yes, and then we got to New York. We flew to New York.
Yeah,
and we're still in the same country, right?
I know.
And they were like, New York.
It was completely different,
it was
and
crazy.
It shocked me that I could pick up the difference in accents once arriving in the USA versus not picking it up so much when watching movies.
Yes.
So,
exactly.
And then we get to Texas, right?
Oh, I know. Well,
Loved
I mean, first of all, there was Miami, and that was a very sort of Hispanic flavor. Lots of Spanish people, a lot of thick accents there.
Yeah.
But then, yes, when we got to Texas, that was like probably the most shocking one.
It was.
Because we were driving down the freeway, we stopped off at a gas station, and I went inside to just get some water or something, and I walked up to the front, and the lady was like, oh, how you doing? Like that, like real slow.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh man, this is cool. Because it's the first time that I'd really spoken to someone with like a Texas accent like that. Because we were like way out,
So kind and just so warm.
Yeah. And then someone walked in, an old man like opened up the door and poked his head in, and he was like, oh, excuse me, miss, I'm on pump number 16. And like, why isn't the pump working? And then she's like, oh, I'm so sorry, I couldn't see you on the monitor, it was too bright. And and then he's like, oh, that's quite all right. And he just like closes the door and like walks out. I was like, oh my goodness, they're so friendly. Like just their voices sound so warm.
They would have had no idea that there's this family from New Zealand
just standing there
like, wow.
Really?
A real interaction.
Keep talking, yeah?
Please keep talking.
Yeah.
It was cool. It really endeared me to the country, I think, hearing the different accents from the different parts of the country.
It was amazing.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah, I guess just when you're so like geographically separated yet still in the same country, you know, you got such a huge, like, even like the dialect, you know, like some of the words that they all use is different as well.
Yeah.
You know, we noticed the language that they use was, you know, you got your sort of localized, you know, slang that you use. Yeah. It was very, very interesting.
It was very cool.
And that's it, guys, for the list of 7 things that shocked us about big city America. And yes, we know that there are many other big cities that we have not visited yet, but we do have an amazing trip planned coming up soon.
We do, and we're going to be delving more into small town America, and I'm sure we will make another list of
video.
Observations.
Yeah, 7 things that shocked us about small town America.
Yes, can't wait.
Yeah, so we hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you want to check out, like we said at the beginning, if you want to check out any other videos that we've released from our trip that we went on, make sure you go and check out our channel, and also if you want to go and see all of our exclusive content over on Patreon, make sure you use the link down in the description box below. And we love you guys, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye!
Bye!